Welcome back to Reading Bear. Today, we will take a look at some new malicious compliance stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
The first story is titled, "Send It to Someone Who Cares, Can Do." I work for a company that has service contracts with lots of different municipalities across the country. Essentially, we go to their town and service important equipment to make sure everything is running smoothly and things meet regulations. The department I work in is to call and email the heads of departments to have them renew their agreement so we can keep coming to service the equipment. We send a lot of reminders because some places it takes a while to get things approved and people tend to forget about the agreement. Recently I had a gentleman, we can call him Bill, respond to one of my emails saying he doesn't need a reminder unless the contract expires. Okay, easy enough. Well, 2 days after the contract expires, I send Bill an email. He is very frustrated and says he asked me not to email him unless it expired. I tell him it expires 2 days earlier. We email back and forth for a bit and it becomes clear he cannot find what he did with the contract. So I ask him if he would like me to send it to him again. He responds, "Send it to someone who cares." Okay, so I call the main line of the municipality and find out who is above Bill when it comes to decision making. They give me the email and I send it off. I get an email back very quickly asking why Bill hadn't handled this. I respond explaining I've contacted Bill a few times and he said he would handle it, but then it never got taken care of. He then asks me to forward my email chain with Bill over to him so he can take a look at it. I was so excited he asked for this. About 10 minutes later I get a phone call from a very upset Bill, asking me why I would contact his boss and now he is in a bunch of trouble. I responded, "Bill, it was not my intention to get you in trouble, but I did what you asked. I sent the contract to someone that cares. I don't take a lot of pleasure in getting someone in trouble at work, but I did what he asked, so it really isn't my fault, right?" The next story is titled, "You're Fired. Now give us all the passwords." To cut a long story short, I got fired from a managerial position in retail because I was technically the highest ranked person on duty when a minor security breach occurred, despite the person who carried out the breach fully confessing, absolving me of blame, and I was doing admin stuff at the time. Before my disciplinary, I knew I was getting fired. I had put everything the company did on Google Drive and I also had the social media passwords, etc. So just before the disciplinary hearing I used LastPass to change the passwords to as long as possible. Google allows 100 characters, and made them random letters, numbers, symbols with interspersed capitals. In my disciplinary I was told I was being fired with 4 weeks pay, as is standard as long as I followed procedure, including handing over the passwords. So I did. I copied the passwords into a Google Doc on my phone, changed the font to lobster bold italic, and took screenshots of them so they couldn't copy and paste, then emailed them to the owners. Not all of them were 100 characters, but I had to give the passwords for PayPal, Google, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. They didn't ask me for the Wi-Fi password as that was still set to the same as when I started, but I did change it along with the router password, and inside the shop is a 4 grams black spot. The next story is titled, "Emergency Room Demanded a Review." So I gave them one. Early August 2018, I tried to break up a late-night fight between my cat and my parents' dog, and I lost. Didn't realize at the time just how bad cat bites are, so the next morning when my hand swelled up I went to the emergency room, where they gave me antibiotics. I'd been on antibiotics twice already that year, for pneumonia and a UTI, so despite knowing my allergies to both penicillin and sulfur were on my chart, I made sure to request ones I wasn't allergic to, because duh. They gave me sulfur antibiotics and I almost died. 2 days later I'm back in the and get different antibiotics. I have good credit and would like to keep it that way, so paid off all my bills as soon as I received them. Drama with getting additional bills later, to the point where I called and asked the registrant to go through my account to make sure I had paid everything, and if I hadn't, I would like to pay it over the phone. Cut to months later, when I get some very angry calls from a collections agency trying to collect on the bills I had already paid. It took a 3-way phone call between the collections agency and me to figure it out, but we figured it out. Cut to the past 2 weeks, where I have gotten 10 different emails asking me to review the One email, every business day, "How did we do? Reminder, give us your feedback, don't forget to review." So I did, on Yelp, Facebook, and Google, just like they asked. This place almost killed me with antibiotics that my medical history clearly states I am allergic to. Then they had the nerve to send my already paid bill from their attempted manslaughter to a collections agency. I'm likely not the only person they've tried to bully into double paying a bill. Now it's a year later and they've suddenly decided to hound me for a review. Paraphrased. You can call me Karen. The next story is titled, You Pick a Color, Okay, Challenge Accepted. It was time to paint a few rooms in the house. For well over a year my girlfriend would not or could not pick a color. She was to go out of town for the weekend to see her mother. I generally do larger, messier projects around the house when this happens. I was tired of these rooms and prodded her again for a color. I wanted her to pick from the dozens of samples collected over the last year or so. She told me to go ahead and pick whatever color I wanted. She did not care. Now I have been with her long enough to know this is not true. I will end up repainting again and I hate to paint, so I devised a plan to make this work to my advantage. If I have to paint again I may as well prepare for it, so I did. I went to the local big box home improvement store and bought 15 gallons of white paint. I then proceeded to paint every room in my 1,000 square feet house, white. Ceilings, walls, and trim included. I thought it was beautiful. She on the other hand did not. She walked in and was not pleased in the least. It just went on and on and on, stark whiteness throughout the whole house. New colors picked and applied within weeks. I gave her a blank slate to work with and it helped her to visualize, I guess. Or the hospital glow in every room got on her nerves. The next story is titled, She Didn't Want to Hear About Her Car Being Towed. I work security for a private business campus that has venues that are often rented by outside groups. One particularly large hall was rented by a local church group and we sold their tickets at the box office immediately in front of the venue. Without going into boring detail, there was only one way into the hall for the general public but numerous exits with cameras everywhere. Parking is free in all 3 of our parking decks, except in clearly marked reserved spaces, which will be important soon. While visitors were still arriving for the event, our dispatch center received a call from our largest campus tenant complaining that a car was parked in one of their 24/7 reserved spaces and they need it moved ASAP. This company pays for these spaces and is constantly using them at all hours of the day and on weekends, which is why we have numerous highly visible signage for this row of spaces warning people of this fact and that towing is enforced. We reviewed camera footage and saw that the owner was a woman dressed in fine Sunday clothes that were an almost painful shade of lime green with a matching hat. This would have been enough to identify her even in our large hall, but we then noticed that she bypassed the ticket line and made her way to one of the venue exit doors. She stayed there several minutes and, when one of the cleaning staff exited, she slipped in behind them. We're still not sure how she knew she could do this, by the way. As the supervisor on duty, I entered the hall and found her in one of the front rows sitting in a group of people. She saw me coming in my security uniform and immediately scrunched up her face. Me, ma'am, can I? Her, interrupting me, now I just sat down. What is it you want? She was already on the defensive and loud. Not a sign of innocence in my experience. Me, I'm with campus security and I need to ask. Her, cutting me off again, what you need to do is leave me alone. I'm sitting with my family and we're here to enjoy my nephew's concert. Ain't nothing so important you renter cops need to be bothering me like this. Me, actually it is important. If you wouldn't mind coming with me, we can talk in the island. Note, she thinks I'm here because she didn't buy a ticket but I don't care about that. I'm trying to tell her about her car before we have to tow it. This is her only chance to move it herself. Her, no, you ain't kicking me out of here at my own nephew's church concert. Now she starts avoiding eye contact with me. Me, ma'am, I'm not here about how you got inside this hall, I'm. Her, raising her voice even more, I don't know what you're talking about but you need to leave me the hell alone. At this point it was so comical that I remember getting the biggest smile on my face and telling her that's all I needed to hear. Enjoy your show. I left and had her car towed immediately. 2 hours later she reported her car stolen to our security desk. The desk officer informed her that she parked in a reserved spot and that security had tried to make contact with her before the show began, according to our log. She loudly demanded to speak to whoever was in charge and that's when I came around the corner and introduced myself. The look on her face was priceless, and she didn't say another word as I gave her the information for the tow company's lot, which was closed by that time. The next story is titled, "You Can Cancel at No Cost." Last year my wife and I got married. My parents and sister live halfway across world, but that didn't stop them from coming over to celebrate. Since neither my wife and I get to spend much time with them, we decided to rent a house for a couple of days in a nearby wine region. You know, hang out, drink some wine, eat some cheese and have some quality family time. It had been 3 years since we last saw them. A month or so before my parents and sister came over, I got an email from the owners of the vacation house saying that they had sold the property, but the new owners were going to continue to rent out the house and they were going to honor the booking, so not to worry. All good. 2 weeks later I got an email from the new owners saying the booking was still okay, but they were going over their records and said I still owed them $100 for the booking. I replied back with the receipt and booking confirmation that I was all paid up. Turns out the new owners unilaterally decided to increase the price of the accommodation, and I had to pay up. But they were gracious enough to say I could cancel at no cost, but they'd rather we'd keep the booking and pay that little extra. No cost for canceling the booking, you say? Within 5 minutes I had found another vacation house in the same region. There's literally dozens of them. I sent a quick email back to please cancel my booking and process the refund. We'd like you to keep the booking. Can we split the difference? No thanks. Please cancel the booking. If you keep the booking, we'll throw in a bottle of wine. No thanks. Please cancel the booking. Good thing the refund came back with days. Their reviews have been less than stellar on TripAdvisor. I wonder why. The next story is titled, "Want to wake up an aircrew during mandatory crew rest time? Fine, we'll cancel mission critical flights." This was 10 years ago in Iraq, at Cobb Spiker. I was part of an aircrew that flew mission critical nighttime flights. I wasn't a pilot, but I flew in a support role in the backseat. We were lucky enough to each have our own little private rooms, called a chew. With an air conditioner in each room, and blackened out windows, it was easy to sleep all day, then wake up at 1600 or 1700 and head to work. We had big signs on our doors, "Day Sleeper. Do not disturb. Come back after 1700. The contractor in charge of safety and maintenance of the CHUS, it was KBR, I think, decided one day they needed to inspect the smoke alarms and fire extinguishers in every room. It's a reasonable request. My boss gave KBR a list of rooms not to disturb until after 1700. Of course, they ignored the list, and we were all awakened to workers banging on our doors and letting themselves in. "Just doing my job, sir." Aircrews are required by civil and military law to have adequate crew rest. It's more than, "Hey, get some sleep." It's a strict number of hours before flying that should be undisturbed. It can become a very big deal, legally, if there's an accident, and it's later revealed the pilot or aircrew member wasn't given a chance to properly rest. As inefficient as the military can sometimes be, it's amazing what a single well-placed phone call can do. My boss shamelessly cancelled the evening's flights, and called Colonel Head Honcho to tell him why. We never saw KBR again. They avoided us like the plague. The next story is titled, "I Charged You Too Much?" My friend, you have no idea. I used to be a bartender, manager at a small family-owned restaurant. We had this one customer who I'll call D, it's short for douchebag. Anyways, he used to be a really nice guy. Always fun to talk to, had interesting stories, the works. However, after about 8 months of him being a regular, he asked me out. I, very politely and kindly, turned him down. And, my God, you would have thought I threatened his mum with the way he reacted. So, following that point, he turned into a giant douchebag. Always snapping at me, both literally and figuratively, complaining about food that he never had an issue with before, etc. A couple months later, we had some changes to our menu and some slight price changes. Notably, his favorite soup, elk chili, was 75 cents more. He stormed in and sat and ordered elk chili. I said, "Of course. I just want to make sure you're aware that of the change." He snapped at me and said, "How dumb do you think I am? I can read." Okay, my dude, whatever you can say. So he gets his soup, his meal, a few beers and a glass of one of our higher quality bourbons. I bring him the check and he flips out. "This is more than it was before. You never told me that it would be more. This is fraud. I'm not paying this." Fix it. Okay, I can do that. However, on the check, I had also charged him for only happy hour price beers, which was significantly less than our regular prices. Happy hour ended before he even got there. I also charged him for a lower quality bourbon by the same company. Please note, the owner was okay with that since he was technically a regular and had spent a lot of money there. So I fixed his check for him. But I fixed all of it. The new check was about $15 more than it was before. He was so mad he was lost for words, and I took the time to show him how I fixed his check. He never came back on nights I was working after that. I don't work there anymore. I wonder how he's doing. The next story is titled, That Table is Free. I can see it. It's empty. About a year back, I worked in a family restaurant. It was a Saturday night and we were pretty busy, with all tables reserved, but it was all under control. I was hosting, and we had a family of 8 due in for a birthday. As I was making my way back to my station, a group of 8 people walked in. For the purpose of this story, the big idiot will be referred to as by, and I shall be me. The exchange went as follows. By, table for 8. Me, no problem, sir, do you have a reservation? By, no, I don't think so. Me, okay, well I'm very sorry, but we are fully booked for tonight, but I can take a reservation for another night if you wish. By, no, if I wanted to eat here another night, I would have come here another night. My back got right up. Me, I understand sir, I do apologize. I'm afraid all our tables are reserved for tonight, but you're more than welcome to take a seat at the bar if you like, while you choose if you would like to go somewhere else. By, what about that table over there, pointing to the birthday table, that's got 8 seats, we'll just sit there. Me, sorry, that table is reserved for another family, they're due here any minute. If you wait at the bar, we have a 30 minutes policy, so if the family doesn't turn up, you can take their table. By, well none of these empty tables have reserved signs on them, so how are we meant to know? Can you not push those 2 together for us? Pointing to 2 tables that weren't even in the same area. Big idiot then spots my manager walking past, and grabs her arm to speak to her, which went down about as well as a fart in a lift. By, excuse me, there is a table over there that we would like to sit at, but this girl here won't let us sit there. We traveled half an hour to get here, and I'm not happy. They don't have any signs on to say they are reserved, so I don't understand. My manager, without missing a single beat, says, I'm sorry about that sir, please wait a second while I sort this out, I won't be long. Big idiot is looking pretty pleased with himself at this point, puffs out his chest and gives me the smuggest look he's probably given anyone. Until he spots my manager walking out, with the little reserved signs in her hand. Our restaurant used to be self-seating. She walks over to my station, checks the diary, and walks over to each empty table, and places a sign on each one, and walks back over to the station. Manager, I'm sorry our system confused you sir, I have now rectified it. I see we have a free table tomorrow evening, at the same time if you would like to come back then? Big idiot turned the most putrid shade of puce you've ever seen in your life, and stated he will sit at the bar and wait to see if the table cancels, and as they're walking, the birthday table of 8 walks in. Big idiot huffs, and beckons his family to leave, at which point, my manager calls over, if you would like that table for tomorrow, please give us a call, have a nice evening. Oh sweet, sweet karma. The next story is titled, Never Piss Off Your Tattoo Artist. Being Friday the 13th, while waiting for my tattoo, I was reminded of a situation a few years ago with my friend Liz, who's my primary artist, and an especially Karen-type lady and her Kyle-esque boyfriend, Double K for both, who came in to get cheap-ass tattoos. I watched this whole thing go down, but wasn't involved per se. So Liz was doing a quick custom job on me and my buddy Chris. Yes, we got matching tattoos, Star Wars yin, yang for those wondering. I went second so Liz and I could catch up. Double K bypassed the massive line out the door and down the stairs and walked straight up to the artist area to try to skip the line. This was shut down pretty quick and they were told there's a huge wait in front of them and they'll have to go to the back of the line. Well, Double K didn't like this one bit and started to throw a fit. Like legit tried to pull me out of the chair because he's getting what he wants and I was here first. She wasn't. I was there at 8 AM to help Liz load in OJ and donuts and the 10 people in line before me knew this too. Well, one of the artists just finished and said, I'll take you too. We were all kinda flabbergasted by this, but Liz got this big crap-eating grin on her face, so I knew something was up. I figured the dude would do a terrible job, go too deep, use the wrong needle, something to just royally duck up their day, but he did none of this. He pulled his flash sheet and said, "Pick one." Karen picked something and he asks where she wants it. Back of her ankle, so dude gets to work free handing it while Double K keep looking at the line like they won something. Well, they did win something, the smallest tattoo I've ever seen. This thing was no bigger than a dime. From 10 feet away all I could see was a little black spot on her leg that looked more like a mole than a tattoo. Double K lost it. Screaming about him assaulting her and forcing her to get a tattoo and they're gonna call the cops and all that. Then they tried to skip out without paying. They were rather impolitely informed that theft of service is a felony and that cops are only 10 minutes away. They tried to pay up the $13, but that's where the guy's brilliance really shone through. His sheet said custom at the top. All custom tattoos were $31. Not only did this lady have a very tiny, and very intricately detailed tattoo, she only had a $50 on her and they had a big ass sign at the register that said simply, "No change." Double K ended up paying the shop minimum anyway, but she got her tattoo ahead of the line. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comments.